For 200 years, the coming of warmer weather in East Hampton has been marked by farmers planting potatoes. In 1791, John Lyon Gardner recorded in his journal the planting of potatoes on his family's island off the East Hampton mainland. They grew well, he wrote, and continued to grow well so that by the late 1950s, Suffolk County was the second largest potato-producing county in the United States. Today, although the potato is less prominent in Long Island agriculture, it is still grown on more acres than any other crop. Dale Moyer, a cooperative extension agent in Riverhead, provides information and technical assistance to Suffolk potato growers.
Within the United States, I guess in the 1950s, it was the second leading county in potato production. However, the acreage has dropped from 40,000 then to about 9,000 in 1987. And that acreage is still the leading potato production county within New York State, but it's not even, I don't think it's even in the top 20 of the potato producing counties in the United States anymore.
Do you know the value of the crop and, for example, the value of the industry to the county?
For example, this year we're talking, with the price being reasonable for the growers, we're talking about a $20 million industry on Long Island here.
That's just the wholesaling of the crop.
Right, that has to do basically with taking the wholesale price times the hundredweights for the tonnage of potatoes produced on Long Island. That doesn't really include the side, workings of that, like for example, selling the pickup trucks or the labor involved or the transportation employees do the potato production.
Do you think the potato farmers are making a good living?
Over the last 5 years, it's been very difficult because we've had 2 very poor years, especially, a disastrous year in 1985, and potato growers lost millions of dollars. This year has been the exact opposite, where there's been a reasonably good price, and the growers could make money, except a lot of them have lost money in 85 and also in 83, and to pay those debts back with this good year, they still aren't very far ahead of what they've been. So they're kind of, after a poor year in 85 and a good year this year, a lot of the growers are an even keel, and hopefully if we can get a good price for the next couple of years, potato production on Long Island can maintain the acreage around 8,000 or 9,000 acres per year.
Where do the farmers sell their potatoes?
Most of them, I should say, are shipped to the south, deep south, and also to a lot of our production goes to Puerto Rico. About 20% of our potatoes sold to Puerto Rico.
For a fresh food market?
Right, fresh food. All potatoes, almost all the potatoes grown on Long Island are what we call a fresh market or table stop market. We don't have a French fry or potato chip industry at this time. In the past, we've had a small potato chip industry, but in the last 10 years, there's been basically fresh market.
Why don't Long Islanders eat their own potatoes? Why don't we buy potatoes in the stores that are grown here?
A lot because they're not offered in a lot of the grocery stores. Due to the marketing system, like I said, a lot of the potatoes coming from the west, which are russets or Maine, come down to the New York markets. They come to a big warehouse for the chain stores, and the chain stores ship them out from their warehouse. It's just the way the marketing system, like we ship a majority of potatoes south of here. I mean, there are potatoes in markets on Long Island, but not as readily as you'd think there'd be with the quantity that we grow out here.
Why is it that the cost of potatoes, the amount the farmer can get for potatoes is so low?
It basically a simple principle of supply and demand. In 85, the production throughout the United States was very high. The yields were also very high. So you had a lot of acreage and a lot of yields equaled a lot of production, very high, record-breaking production in many areas of the United States. And so with the overproduction, the price falls, and you don't have a price for the growers to make money. They lose money. In a year like this, the production acreage was down, yields were down, and you have a lower supply, and the demand is bigger than the supply, so the price increases.
Do you think there's a future for potato farming in Suffolk County?
There's a limited future. You know, there's a lot of pressure for housing and possible other uses for the land. And I think there is, I'm not sure what that acreage is, whether it's 8,000 or 9,000 like we're at right now, or maybe 5,000 acres of potatoes. But we're in the line of maturity where you start in Florida in May and work to North Carolina, Virginia, as they harvest the potatoes as they go into June, July. They go into Delaware and then New Jersey and Long Island. So as a harvest area during the end of July and August and early September, we have a place where you can't really start harvesting on many potatoes in Maine until late into September. And so I think there is that window for us to maintain some acreage of potato production on Long Island.
As far as a young farmer getting into potato production, do you see them coming along? Do you see new farmers?
Well, the only real new potato farms you have is sons of potato growers that are getting involved in the business or taking over the business. The problem is probably 50% of the land that potatoes are growing on and a lot of the other crops is not owned by the particular farmer. It's owned by speculators or other landowners. And if they decide to sell for houses, that land is lost. So in some cases, I know there's young farmers that are interested in looking to other areas where they can maybe buy land at a much cheaper cost and grow potatoes without the threat of losing land that they're renting to development.
In Maine or somewhere?
I have not heard a lot of interest in Maine, more, say, in Delaware, possibly New Jersey, Wisconsin, or Michigan.
How long has your family been in the business and so forth?
Well, of course, my father started when he was a young man. I just don't know what year. I guess it was in the 20s, somewhere in there. He started. He didn't have no farm, didn't have any land or anything. He just got started. His brother owned the farm, our present farm in East Hampton, and he got on that and just kept expanding, borrowed money and bought land. He rented a lot of land at first. At one time he farmed 400 acres. This was along in the early 40s. And we farmed 400 acres. We only owned about 60 acres home. All the rest of it was rented, scattered around East Hampton and Watermill too, as far as that goes.
As a young man, as a boy, growing up in a farming family, what do you remember? Some of that. I mean, there's a lot there to remember, but did you work with your dad on the farm?
That's right. For me, the farm was everything. I didn't really pay attention in school. I wanted to get home on the farm, and that's what I done. The minute the bell rang, I was out the door, and to get home on the farm because it was a lot of activity. My father at that time farmed pretty big, and there was a lot of equipment and just a lot of life, a lot of activity on the farm. So that's all I wanted to do, and that's all I did do.
You enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess I never changed really. I personally think that the chances of making a living raising potatoes is just as good as it ever was. It was never too good. However, you would have to say that it's got to be a much more high-risk business than what it ever was. But this is true of all businesses, I would guess. Why there isn't more farming, I guess that's the question you asked me, why there isn't more life to it, why isn't there more young farmers coming along? This is one of the big problems, as I see it, with potato farming as I know it, that most of the farmers are getting old. They don't have a choice. They have to quit. And the young, I guess the outside competition is better, that they can make a better living outside than what they can farming. It's just simple economics. That's what I think. I don't think the opportunity to make a living is a heck of a lot different than it ever was.
If you weren't from a farming family, do you think you could get into the business now? You think you could be.
Well, I think you could get into the business. I don't know as you could buy land.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know as you could do that because it's so expensive, obviously. I would guess that a fella could, if he worked it right, he could get in maybe with a retired farmer and get in with him and gradually take over his land. However, I would have to say that it would probably be very limited.
You said you're growing 120 acres this year.
That's correct.
Now, did you the same amount you grew last year?
That's correct.
So you're not backing off?
Well, I used to raise 200. I've backed off gradually because of my age, I guess.
Right. Okay.
We've rolled with the waves a little bit, we're trying to get into a little of the farm stand business by having green stuff growing, so that takes some of our time. It's a kind of a diversified idea. Whether it will ever really gel or not, I don't really know.
So you are diversifying somewhat?
Well, somewhat. Somewhat. I really believe that if you're going to farm here and you're going to be a big farmer and make a good living at it, that you'd better raise potatoes.
You're the last Dameicki farming, and you don't see any of your offspring or anyone continuing in the farming business?
No, I only had one son and a daughter, and the son's in real estate. And he keeps wanting to sell it, never mind farming.
What type of potato are you planting this year? What variety?
Well, we planted 3 different kinds. 2 that we always plant, Superior and Katahdin, and the government comes in with nematode problems, and they make us plant these, I call them synthetic potato, very hard to move and sell. I planted Hudson. Like I say, I'm practically on my way out. You might say I'm 61 years old.
What's your feeling about the potato industry now and in the short-term future coming up? Prospects for the potato business?
Well, I don't know. I like I said, I fought it for years, and had my ups and downs. And I think the last time when Channel 19 interviewed me, I told them that if you run a tight ship and watch yourself, and eventually I think you can make a living if you can just hang in there, and work hard. It's a lot of hard work, but the only trouble is there's not too many young people that's going to go through that, because it's very hard, because you never have no steady income. You don't know what you're going to do, or how much you're going to make. Now it costs so much that if a young person wanted to go get started, and he borrowed a lot of money, and if he had that one bad year like we had $2 potatoes,